Hey everybody, this is the Balanced Life podcast, and today I'm going to be talking about AI. And I want to give full disclosure to begin with. I am a professional writer, but that does not mean that I instantly had a problem with AI. In fact, I've done a number of videos over the last year reassuring writers that we don't have to worry, we're not going to be entirely replaced by computers, and talking about ways to stay relevant in an industry where people are using AI in ways that they used to use copywriters. But I did want to warn all of you marketers and people who are using AI primarily that there are some things that I have encountered that you need to be aware of so that you can make sure that AI is not changing the meaning of what you say. So let me tell you exactly what happened so you can see how creepy this is. And I'm going to give you another example that just happened on my Instagram. It wasn't AI, but it shows how it can happen if it's not pernicious, if it's just something that happens. So I typed into AI, I had a transcript of something that I dictated, and I just wanted to have headings. Now, the way I use AI is to help me to see things differently than I would normally see them, and also help me to summarize things sometimes, and then I revise them. So what I was doing was asking for subject headings, and in this particular case, I wanted to see if what I was conveying was clear. Now, I realize AI is computer and not human, but if the subject headings were far different than what I was trying to communicate, then I was going to take it to a human and say, okay, where's the disconnect? Is it me? Is it the computer? What's happening? So I put in the subject headings and I said, do not delete any words, take out the timestamps, add headings. That's all. So that was my instruction. I didn't say that's all, but those were my instructions. That was the only thing I wanted done. So I see the numbers are taken out. I see subject headings. But as I was scrolling through the transcript, I forget what I was even doing, but I was scrolling down through the transcript looking for something. And I actually did. I had like 8 of these dictations that I did. This is relevant. Don't put down your phone yet. This is relevant to you, and I'll explain it. There's a reason I'm explaining all these things. So I had done 8 different things. I got through like 4 of them, copying and pasting the AI so that I could then edit them in a single thing. If you've listened to any of my trainings, I say try to group tasks so that you can be more efficient. And I was practicing what I preach. And so I went through and I was copying and pasting. And I think that's when it happened that I noticed at the end of one of the transcripts that something appeared to be missing. Or I was trying to find something, so I put a keyword into the search box of the document, and I couldn't find it. So I went back and I scrolled up, and I realized that there was a chunk missing from at least one of the transcripts. So I went back into AI. I put in the original transcript again with all the numbers and everything, the thing that I had initially put in, and I gave the same instructions, only I did not tell it to take out the timestamps. My assumption was the AI was not distinguishing between numerals and words in some cases, and therefore, to make it clearer, I just said, do not delete anything from the transcript. Do not change any words. Simply add the topics. So when I did that, I looked through, and again, that same section was missing, only now it was missing also with the transcripts. Now, remind you, I did not go through and ask it to redo the same thing. I put in the whole transcript all over again, so it kept deleting the exact same section. So then a third time I said, you have deleted words, and I put in the same transcript again. Do not delete any words. I kept giving it a thumbs down. Do not delete any words, da-da-da-da-da. Now, I have a paid version. And so this wasn't like some kind of whatever. I have a paid version. I was giving it these instructions. It was again missing it. So I finally said, you have deleted sections, and I put in the timestamps through this timestamp. Put those back in the transcript and give me section headings. So then it did put it back in. So it did have the information, and this time I didn't put it back in. I just told it to replace that, to give me the same thing, but with that section returned. So first of all, AI is not following instructions, and it is deleting entire sections of what we say. Because of this, I went through my other transcripts, and I found in at least 3 of the transcripts specific personal anecdotes and stories that I was sharing were deleted. So if you're relying on AI to help you take your information and, clean it up or whatever, it is deleting actual information. This is something I lived personally, I knew, and actually in the one case where I had to keep telling it to put it back, it was actually the main illustration of the whole entire story. So thankfully I would have figured it out, but this created a big mess. Here's the other thing that I noticed. It's changing the meaning of things. So one example I had is I had a transcript where I was actually just telling it to take out the timestamps. I wasn't asking it to do anything else, just take out the numbers. And I saw that it had changed. It said something about, now let's talk about the elephant in the room. This was a transitional sentence. I know it's cliche, it doesn't matter. In this context, it worked. Let's talk about the elephant in the room was transitioning to the next thing. And it changed that to, I don't remember the exact phrase, but it was a summary phrase which pointed back to what we just did. So instead of transitioning to a new thought, it pointed back and it changed the meaning of what followed. I don't remember it specifically, and it was actually something I was doing for a client, so it's privileged, but I do have an example from something I put in Instagram today that I did wrong that illustrates the same kind of idea. So when I was sharing a video on Instagram, I said, my husband at the time. What I meant to say is, at the time, my husband. See, my husband at the time seems to imply I've had a different husband since then. In the context of the story, I said my husband at the time was a paramedic. I meant at the time my husband was a paramedic. You see, it's just a small shift in the words, but it changes the meaning, especially in a specific context. This is the danger of AI. This is what you have to watch and pay attention to. And if you are doing like some marketers do, and they're taking like, a transcript of, let's say something like this, a video, they're taking a transcript and they're having it create, chunk up little social media posts or blogs or newsletter words or whatever. They're turning it into a bunch of different content with AI's help. The problem is things like my husband at the time versus at the time my husband are being mistranslated, and it's actually changing the meaning. So I'm not a Luddite. I see the value of technology. In fact, as I said at the beginning, I have been teaching a class on my Writing Career Coach YouTube channel where I talk about using AI technology to help us improve our writing, help us improve our editing skills, to brainstorm things we may not otherwise think of. Like I said in the example of my subject headings, I use those subject headings to determine if I'm clearly conveying certain ideas. I don't use them to write my information. I use them to kind of be a reader for me, a beta reader, so I can double check my work. There's other ways that we can use this. But my concern is, as we're using this in business and marketing for clients we may not know very well, or in areas and industries we're not overly familiar with, we may be inadvertently changing the meaning or putting out content that actually changes the meaning of what our clients are saying. And this is a big problem. Because if you don't know that information intimately, these were transcripts of things I had just finished dictating not more than 2 hours prior. So this is stuff that was fresh in my mind. But how many times have I done stuff later and missed this over the last 6 months of using this technique to kind of summarize what I'm doing and double check that I'm communicating correctly. All right, so that's as far as I'm going to go into this for right now. I want to issue this warning to businesses who are doing this not because I think the machines are taking over the world. That's a conversation for a different time, a different place. What I do want to say is there is the very real fact that There's nuances in any language, and that doesn't just mean like language as in English. It means every industry has their nuances. If I say a TOC, in publishing, you probably know that I mean table of contents. If I put MS in something, in writing, you know that to be a manuscript. In healthcare, you know that to be multiple sclerosis. So words and things have different meanings in different industries, and AI is only as smart as its programming. And we need to be very careful, especially if we're selling our services, like I'm saying, marketing, advertising, content developers, if we're using this, because if we are not really well versed, not only in the industry we're doing, but that particular person and their unique spin, their unique approach to their subject, we can be stripping them of their uniqueness, or even worse, changing what they're saying. This is very important to what we're doing. Plenty of other implications that we can discuss another time, but I wanted to bring this to your attention. I hope that you'll spread the word. I hope that you'll let other people know, just as a warning, to double check and to look for this particular thing, especially when it's critical. Like in my case, it was critical to the illustration I was trying to convey. And if I had not caught it and I had passed it on to a team member or something and said, okay, finish putting this together and go ahead and post it for me, knowing that my transcript, was clean, my subject heads were just fine, this could have been a big problem. All right, so I don't want you to fail. Even though we all fail sometimes, just try to fail forward. I'll see you next time, guys. Bye.